Hey, property management friends, welcome to This Week in Property Management. I'm your host, Jeremy Pound from RentScale. We have an amazing show today. We've got our October Business Development Scoreboard, and our guest is one of our clients who just keeps securing their spot at the top of the scoreboard. And he's here today to share with us what they're doing to win new business, what's worked for them, and how you can generate more property management leads too. But while we wait for other friends to join us live, let's take a quick look at a highlight from a recent episode. Why are people continuing to do business with you, or bringing new business to you, I should say?
We just really do a good job, and we ask people for referrals. And that's really as simple as it gets. And I think if you have a kick-ass product, and in this space, you have to be inspiring, I think. I just did a call today. My BDM quit last week, so I'm jumping back in the sales seat. Met the guy. On Friday, he was a website lead. Don't do any marketing. He was a website lead. He just wanted us to lease his property for him. Good needs analysis. Tell him that's not what he needs. Sign him up. We'll have his property listed tomorrow because what he needs going on. And I think just by doing great things like that, he's now a sales rep. He's a marketing mouthpiece for me. I've averaged 7.33 properties per month this year. My closing ratio is 50%. And the ones that haven't closed are going to close when their time is up, right? It's when they move, when this thing happens, I'm getting their property.
So be sure that you're subscribed to us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, or X, wherever you like to follow these videos. And you can watch these industry episodes live and be the first to hear about what's new and trending, and comment along and ask our guests questions. So last week, Jen and I were in New York City. We went to the first ever Resi Day, which was a one-day conference about residential real estate, and specifically focused on what the real estate data is showing us about where residential property is going, where some of the brightest minds in the industry were talking about prices, mortgage rates, and buyer demand, and what we forecast and what they think is going to happen in 2025. Now, it was a great event. We had a lot of fun. It reminds me that subscribing to Resi Club's free newsletter is just a great way to aggregate data that you or your business development manager can use when educating investors on buying or selling their properties, on liquidating or growing their portfolios. So we'll drop a link in down below. It's ResiClubAnalytics.com. And Jen and I got to meet Lance Lambert, who is the founder of Resi Club and also formerly the real estate editor for Fortune magazine. And now he's focused on Resi Club and sharing this data full time. I've discovered him last year. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll know that I share a lot of his data because I think it's absolutely fantastic. We also got to meet Michael Zuber, who is the author and host of One Rental at a Time, both the YouTube channel and the book, One Rental at a Time, while we were there at the event. So expect to see both Lance and Michael Zuber on the show soon. They both agreed that they would come on. They were excited what we're doing here, and they want to share some of their insight into where the real estate market is going next year. But today, we have a great show packed with insight for any property manager who's looking to grow their business. So I don't want to take up too much time with the industry news. I'm excited to bring Peter Lohmann on, owner of RL Property Management and co-founder of Crane, which is an exclusive mastermind for property management owners. But first, let's bring Jen in to give us our monthly walkthrough of the RentScale Business Development Scoreboard for October.
Hey everyone, back at you with another Scale Club scoreboard update, this time for the month of October 2024. We have a lot going on here at RentScale, and again, some record breakers. We are just seeing people break records left and right in their companies and in all of Scale Club. So I can't wait to dive into the numbers, but before we do, our world has been completely immersed with Sales Mastery. If you guys haven't heard about Sales Mastery, you are under a rock, because it is all that we are posting on social media right now. And it is all that our team is talking about. But that is because we are so excited about this event. This is going to be the biggest sales event of the year in property management. We can't wait to show you all what's in store. In fact, today we had a meeting, we did full run of show, and even my mind is blown by how much we are bringing to you guys. We are talking about everything from lead generation with PMW and marketing systems, to how to convert those leads, to what your messaging should look like, to outbound prospecting. You guys, my team just got back from the Outbound conference with Jeb Blunt and a bunch of other sales gurus, and they came back jazzed up and ready to share some of the things we learned from outside the industry and bring them in. That's a huge focus here at RentScale, and in Sales Mastery, it will be no exception to bring those things to you. We're also going to talk about some of the real estate trends that we're seeing across the country and how to leverage those in sales conversations. Jeremy and I went out to Resi Club to New York just last week. We learned all about some of the trends going on, and we can't wait to share some of the data, but also teach you how to use that in your conversations to sell. We are going to talk about how to multiply your clients that you already have and what customer experience should look like. And you guys, we have a brand new product to show you. So lots and lots of stuff going on here. Cannot wait for Sales Mastery, and that is what we have been immersed in. All right, so without further ado here, let's talk a little bit about the numbers for October. I was looking at this scoreboard and I was analyzing all the data, looking at our accountability spreadsheets and kind of taking everything in. And I noticed something that I don't know if I've ever paid a lot of attention to before, but we had just under 1,200 leads in the month of October for our community. That's a statistic I'm going to start tracking because I'm really interested to see what is the overall consensus. I know we track average lead volume here on the scoreboard, and you will see that down at the bottom for the month of October. It was 22 and down slightly, but I want to see the volume across the entire community. So 1,200 leads. There are still investors out there. There's still a lot of movement in real estate. And as much as we're proud of how big our community of 80 BDMs is, we also know that there's a lot more business going on outside of our community. So really exciting statistic as I was looking at the data. All right, so for the month of October, we've got our leaders. Denver closed 103 doors. That did include a big investor portfolio with about 80 units. Since I am in Denver, I was fully immersed in who was in that and what that battle looked like. And it was fun to kind of see it all play out. So 103 doors there, some single family, some multifamily. Chicago, Illinois in at 40 doors. That was up from last month. Columbus, Ohio, another great month at 26. Richmond, Virginia, first time on the scoreboard. This BDM is actually new, and she's already at the top of the scoreboard, already killing it. We are so proud of her at 24 doors. And then Memphis, Tennessee, no shocker here. She keeps being up at the top of our board. And believe it or not, her numbers are down from the month of September, still at 20 doors. Across our entire community, we saw 521 doors, which was up from the month of September. We are 98% to goal according to forecast. Across our entire community, we've got 9 doors on average, which was down by about 20. And we've got 19 doors for our top 50%, which was up by about 7%. So what that means is our top performers are really starting to figure out how to wiggle up and wiggle out. And we're really excited to see what all those guys are doing. We keep posting on the new doors added side of the scoreboard, larger and larger numbers. So we know that what we're doing within our community and how we're actually asking BDMs to progress forward is absolutely working. And the numbers absolutely show that. If you want to see a history of all the scoreboards we've done, it's now been a year and almost a half of this. You can go to rentscale.com/scoreboard and you can access all of the scoreboards as well as the videos so that you can download everything. So this month we are going to focus on heavily on outbound, thanks to that awesome outbound conference. But you guys, my team is seriously focused on making Sales Mastery one of the best events ever. So if you haven't got your tickets, make sure to grab them. Pricing does go up this Friday because we have to lock in headcounts for this event. And once we lock in headcounts, it costs us more. So if you're going to register, make sure to do it by this Friday. Otherwise, you are going to pay a premium. That's all I've got. Thanks so much. And back to you, Jeremy.
Hi there. Did you know that RentScale hosts one of the largest communities of property management sales professionals in North America? Well, my name is Reese Register, and I'm actually a previous BDM and currently a scale coach here at RentScale. We provide over 20 hours monthly of teaching and training and accountability to make sure that our BDMs are supercharging their sales business through inbound, outbound, and allbound. So if you're interested in learning more about supercharging your business, go over to rentscale.com. We'll be glad to schedule a consult and see how we can help you transform your business today.
I'm really excited to share some personal anecdotes and learn from a longtime client here at RentScale. In fact, I want to say that my guest on today was actually what I believe was the 12th client we ever had at RentScale, going back at least 5 years. And it's been amazing to see the transformation and the journey. And what I'm seeing him doing now is just such a leadership standpoint in the industry that I wanted to bring him on. We wanted to ask a bunch of questions because the questions that Jen and I are going to ask today of Peter are the questions that you ask when you call us. And I know that this is what's on your mind, which is, how do I get more clients? And how do I generate more leads? And how do I generate the right leads so that these are people that I actually want to manage? So Peter Lohmann, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeremy. I'm excited to be here. And I was just looking before we jumped on. It was actually like 6.5 years ago that we first communicated and jumped on a call. So it's been a minute.
You've always been a pioneer, Peter, and that's what I appreciate about you. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today. I think you're pioneering some new stuff 6 years later, which is fantastic. So kind of walk us through what you are doing as a business. What's your velocity look like? Who's an ideal client for you? What market are you in? Just kind of give all the listeners the overall lowdown on who you are and what kind of business you're running.
Sure. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of RL Property Management. We're here in Columbus, Ohio, and we manage residential rental homes and small apartments in central Ohio. So we're just in one market here. And we're really, really close. We're about 690 units. We're very close to 700 units under management. And we're focused on mostly what I would call like Class B type properties. We tend to avoid like the super, super ultra premium rentals. And we definitely avoid the sort of Class C and below type properties that are in the rougher neighborhoods. We're set up to work with investors. We do our best work with property owners that view the asset as an investment. We also work with accidental landlords. We sometimes call them homeowner clients. And we're trying to get better at working with them as well. And our business, single family is definitely the majority of the properties, but we also do manage a good number of small multifamily, and we've had good success with that. In terms of velocity, so we'll get into this for sure. We have we have an in-house marketing function, and obviously our BDM, and the marketing department is generating 50 to 60 leads a month, valid leads, meaning property owners who currently own a property, not looking, in an area that we would want to manage. So these are 50 to 60 leads that we really, really want. And we are closing about 30% of those every month. And the average client has about 1.6 to 1.7 units. So of course, a lot of them will have one, and then a small handful will have 2, 3, 4, 8, 20 units, sometimes 30 or 40.
Fantastic. And Jen, I want you to help us understand, what is it that Peter's doing here? What are you seeing that he's doing that's unusual compared to the rest of our community?
Well, Peter, you mentioned that you're getting 50 to 60 leads a month, which I think is incredible. And that's just inbound, or is that inbound and outbound?
So that's a mixture of inbound plus outbound appointments scheduled by our BDR, or our outbound salesperson. So he is cold calling and working some lists and working very old leads in an effort to get appointments booked for our BDM. So the VAL lead number includes appointments that he's able to book as well.
That's awesome. Okay, so I want to dive into that more because I think that people are probably going to be really interested in hearing about it. But let's just talk a little bit about inbound, just a bit more. What are you doing to generate those inbound leads?
So the majority of those leads are coming right off of our organic web presence. So we've been around a really long time. I've been in business 11 years. And if you just Google Columbus Property Management, we're almost always near the top 3 results. And we almost always show up on that Google Map pack, which takes up a lot of screen real estate these days on a search result. And we've got a 4.3 rating on Google. And so because of those things, we get a lot of folks who see that and then either fill out the form or call. And so that really helps. So there's no getting around the importance of a great presence on Google, both your Google reviews and Google Maps, as well as just classic organic SEO stuff. So that's definitely a part of it. We also, we have a pay-per-lead vendor that we're working with that we're having good success with. We can talk about that if you want. And let's see, what else? We're starting to increase our referral efforts. So building relationships with realtors, brokers, lawyers, bankers, CPAs, anyone that touches a real estate transaction is potentially a great referral source for property management. And so we've started to increase our efforts there as well. I know some folks have built huge businesses bigger than mine just off referrals. And so I think that can be a huge unlock for folks. When I think about, people always ask, like, what's your biggest source of leads? I think a lot of it has to do with, like, for the business owner or the operator, where are your strengths and where are your personal interests? If you're a people person, you may love being out in the community and building these relationships with referral partners and going to real estate meetups and lean into that. If you're less oriented in that way and you're more like a data and numbers computer type person, maybe try and crack that PPC nut. If you can figure out a great PPC campaign, run it in-house, that can be extremely, extremely effective and profitable. Again, I know people who have built whole businesses off of that. They eventually start offering it out to others. So I think to cap it off, it's less about the specific lead source that's going to work for everyone, and it's more about leaning into your strengths, because that's how you're going to have a sustained effort. And that's actually what it really takes to build a successful marketing campaign, is a sustained effort over a long period of time, longer than we'd all prefer, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up some really good points here, Peter. I think I talk with providers of marketing systems in the space, and I always ask the question, what is it? What's the winning solution? And it's very local. There's not one winning solution. You also bring up the idea of consistency, which I think so many people back out of marketing after even 6 months or a year in it because they're just not seeing that traction. And we've been with you for 6.5 years, but you've been doing this for a long time. And so you've got that longevity and you have that consistency kind of built in. And I think that's one of the important things that it takes. And then the last thing that I heard you say was you're really doing an all-bound approach, inbound, outbound, and what we refer to as next bound. And there's not one answer or one bucket that you're putting all your eggs in.
Yeah, there's this inherent tension with marketing. You hear experienced marketers say things like, you need to have longevity and you need to be consistent over a long period of time to see results. But that doesn't mean that every approach, if done long enough, is going to work. There are approaches that are not going to work no matter how long you hit on them. So it's really challenging and quite frankly frustrating as a business owner who's not an expert in marketing. How do you discern, how do you figure out, okay, well, this is going to work, it just needs time, versus, no, I'm just throwing money down the drain. And so, what do? You talk to your other business owner friends, you talk to experts in the space, such as RentScale, you talk to the vendors that you're working with or thinking about working with and try and suss out their believability. It's very, very, very hard. And At a certain point, you have to sort of develop your own thesis and your own belief around what is going to resonate with your ideal customer and just go for it. And I wish there was like an easy button here. Marketing is one of the hardest things for small business. I know that for sure.
Yeah, marketing and just marketing as a whole, but lead generation especially, like that's what we want out of marketing, right? So as you think about the longevity and as we're kind of talking about that, look back over your time. Do you think there was a time when your leads took off and it just all of a sudden skyrocketed, like something was working? Or do you think that it was just a slow and steady, painful climb over the years?
Well, for years and years, it was that slow and steady. It was slowly building our presence on Google, slowly getting to be known in the community, going to real estate investing groups, building referral partners. All those are very slow builds. I think by far the largest pop in growth that we've seen as far as lead flow has been when we brought a marketing person in-house. You know, I've messed around with all kinds of different web agencies and marketing agencies and different platforms and ideas. And until I brought someone into our team as a W-2 employee full-time and said, listen, your job is to drive leads. If you don't hit X leads per month within 90 days, you're fired. I told him that before he even started. And I was just like, listen, I know like building a brand and like web hits, like there's a lot of metrics we could be looking at, Facebook likes, but what I need right now is lead flow. If you think you can deliver lead flow, let's give it a shot. And so bringing that expert marketer in-house, really, if you looked at a graph of like our lead flow, that's when it sort of accelerated with the hockey stick, because now you have someone in the business. It's their whole job. It's all they're thinking about every day when they wake up. I love this concept of like, what's the thing you're thinking about in the shower? There can only be one, right? And so a lot of my friends who have their fingers in multiple businesses, kind of myself included, I always kind of warn them, like, you can only be thinking about one thing in the shower, and that's what you should really kind of be going all in on, because your other stuff's going to wither. And so for this marketing person, I wanted growth of leads at RL Property Management to be the one thing he was thinking about in the shower. Whereas for me, when I was trying to fulfill that role, I have my mind is on a million different things, right? You know, lead flow is only one of 100 concerns just at RL Property Management, let alone the other things I'm up to. So that was when it really started to take off. Now, of course, this is contingent on finding that right person and onboarding them and doing a good job managing them and all this other stuff. I got really lucky and found someone awesome, and I think I'm doing an okay job managing him. But for us, that to answer your question, that was the results that we saw.
When was that? When did you find that person?
That was this year. So he started July 1st. So he started the first day back after my June break.
Okay, got it. And I'll just fill in for anybody listening that you take the entire month of June off every year. And I'm very inspired by that. And you're able to do that because you're building a great business. So one of the things that you stop me if you've heard this, but don't really stop me, because this is what I talk about all the time, is if there's ever really something you need to fix in your business, you got to put somebody full-time in charge of it. This is what I talk about all the time when people are like, oh, my biggest problem is I can't grow my sales. And I'm like, well, who's full-time in charge of it? And they're like, nobody. Everybody just does it a little bit.
I love that answer. I don't think I've heard you say that. So that's a good one.
Okay, I say this all the time. That's why I was like, maybe Jen's rolling her eyes because I say it all the time. And by the way, we can take our own advice. We've got our own shower situations that we need to think about, and probably just need to put somebody full-time in charge of it. But it is so elementary, right, Peter? It's like, okay, hey, we're in the world of social media and digital. Like, I need to go buy an expensive course and I need to learn everything. But like my entrepreneur friends just kind of know, like, if you really have a problem, just put somebody full-time in charge of it with nothing else. Just like you said, so that they're accountable, they're on the spot. And I love that you said that. Like, it's that primitive theory, right? That most business owners that are too smart for their own good are going to hear and be like, no, there's a better way. I can crowdsource that. I can get a VA. I can outsource it. They're going to make all kinds of like hacks. And they're never going to just be like, I need to put a qualified person full-time in charge of it so that every day that they don't do it, I realize that I'm sinking a ton of money into this and it's not working and I have to make tough decisions. So I just love that you said that. And I wanted to chime in because I just don't think we talk enough about this.
The crude version of this is you need one throat to choke.
Yeah.
So when stuff's not working, it can't be three different people who are all trying. It has to be one person who's fully accountable.
Yeah, I agree. All right, thanks for sharing that. Chen, I'll let you get more of the juicy details from Peter.
So Peter, I'm curious, did this person come in and have a bunch of experience? Did they have a system that you had already set up and all they had to do was come in and make it work? Or where did you start with this individual? And what did you look for in that hiring process?
It was a little bit of both. So he came in with some real estate marketing experience. He previously was at a firm that specialized in helping realtors with outbound, actually. So he worked for a company that provided lists and a dialer for realtors to help them grow their business. And I was like, oh, that's perfect, because I've been wanting to spin up an outbound campaign or an outbound department at my management company. And we do work with a lot of realtors anyway, so you've already got that connection. So that was a great fit. He did not have experience growing leads at a property management company. I think there's probably, you could almost count on one hand the number of people in the world who have.
What? Shocking.
Yeah. In fact, he started up a mastermind. I helped him get a mastermind going, and it's slim pickings out there for people who are full-time at a PM firm on marketing, and not marketing for tenants, but actually marketing for owners, not sales, but marketing. So, yeah, it's a rare thing, and it was a challenge to find the right person for that role. I worked with a recruiter, and yeah, I do feel like there was some luck involved in finding this person as well.
Well, it goes back to being a pioneer, Peter. I mean, 6 years ago when you and I talked and we started RentScale, no BDM was taking their second job. Like every business development manager we hired for property management was leaving another industry and coming in. And that's scary, right? Because we all just want to, I think like the logic is, let's just go hire people that have solved this problem before. And then I'm like, oh, I've solved this problem for other industries. And so I'm an outsider and I'm coming in and helping you learn how to sell. And everyone's like, oh, but property management is so different. Like, remember, I don't know if you remember this, but like 5 or 6 years ago, all of the message boards about NARPM and property management where if they don't have property management experience, don't listen to them. But the problem was nobody had property management experience and building a sales team experience, right? And so today, nobody has a ton of lead gen experience. Well, I mean, not nobody. Like you said, you can count them on one hand. So it's just a great point. Like going back to the pioneer phase, somebody's always got to be first. Somebody's always got to break the mold. Otherwise, we'd all just be running far more boring businesses that are more established, right? That's the alpha. The alpha is you are going to take a risk and you're going to do something for the first time, and you're going to have a certain amount of waste when you do that. But if you do it thoughtfully and you look left and right and you look at some ancillary markets around that are kind of like property management, but not exactly, like you can spot some patterns, right? Is that what you're doing?
It's exactly where I got the idea, and I'm certain I'm not the first person to spin up outbound at a property management company. But for years, I've had this idea. If you look at the big brokerage houses, not the residential brokers, but the big commercial brokerages like Marcus and Millichap and some of these other really huge firms that help transact massive apartment communities and huge commercial spaces, and these companies are built on outbound. They do not sit around waiting for the owner of 3 500-unit apartment complexes to call and say, oh, I was searching on Google and I saw your name. I'm interested in selling my properties. Like, that is not how that business is found. It's found by people cold calling owners of those properties and building relationships with them, potentially over years, and providing value. And, oh, hey, Mr. Owner, I just saw that an apartment community near you sold. If you want, we can jump on a call. I can share the details that I have access to. Oh, really? That's interesting. Right now you're on the phone with them and you're starting to build that rapport. This is how these huge brokerages are built. And if you look at like LinkedIn and stuff, you'll see that they're hiring like hundreds of like associates who are doing nothing but hitting the phones all day, every day for like years until they built up a big enough book of business that they can start to scale that back a little bit. And the reason that these companies are able to do that is because the customer lifetime value is massive, right? Think about the commissions that are generated on the sale of a huge apartment community. We have a similar situation in that our customer lifetime value as property management companies is also very large because of the contractually recurring revenue and the stickiness of the service. Our customers tend to stick around a long time, especially if you have low churn. So what that means is you can spend more to acquire a customer than, say, the owner of a shoe repair company, right? Like if you're a Main Street business doing shoe repair, you cannot afford to pay someone to cold call homeowners and say, hey, how are your shoes looking today? But at a property management company that's well run, you can afford to do that. Now, obviously you can't spend an unlimited amount of money acquiring customers in this way, but especially if you target people who own multiple properties, there is some money to play with there. So that was kind of my thesis. I was like, all right, if it works for these big, huge brokerage houses, there's no reason it can't work on our industry too. I just need to figure out all the pieces and parts, like where do you get the list and who do you hire to do the calls and what do they say? And then does that person actually close them or do they make an appointment with the closer, blah, blah, blah. And like all the stuff that we're kind of like, that's the area that it does feel like we're pioneering because I don't have a playbook I'm following for that stuff.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure I get this right. You hired someone to do marketing for inbound leads, but then you also went out and hired someone who was going to take these scripts and make these outbound calls from these lists, right?
Correct. We have a sales and marketing team consisting of the marketing person who's kind of over the department, our BDM, traditional BDM, placed by RentScale, and then our BDR or our cold outbound person.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that cold outbound. How's that going for you? And actually, before we ask that, what is it that this person is doing? You said there has to be one responsibility and they have to be held accountable for that. So what is this person supposed to be focused on and what are their activities look like?
So the BDR's sole metric is appointments booked for the BDM. So his goal is to book, I can't remember, it might be like 5 appointments a week on our BDM's calendar. And so by whatever means necessary, which includes a lot of cold calling, a lot of follow-up emails, a lot of building relationships with realtors, and a lot of reactivation of very old and stale leads in our CRM inside Lead Simple.
Okay. And I know a little bit about this individual. So I know you hired them. They live here in the US. Did you ever consider going abroad for this type of role? Or was there any thought to why hire them right here versus hiring them, a remote team member?
So our BDR is actually not in the US, but he was born in Texas. So he's got this great Southern accent and he's from the US. So when you get on the phone with him, you would never know that he wasn't located here now. But because his purchasing power and his local currency goes a lot further, it means he's more affordable than it would be to hire an equivalent person in the US. In terms of like what I would recommend to others, I don't know that I have enough experience to say one way or the other. You may have to experiment a little bit and see how your conversions work depending on the region of the person that you're hiring. I mean, obviously they need to be able to work US hours and place those calls during times that you're likely to get responses. They need to probably have really, really good English in order to break through that first 10 to 20 seconds of doubt. When you first get a cold call from somebody, like it or not, people are making judgments and opinions based on how the person on the other end of the phone sounds. So,
yeah. Okay. And this outbound person's making calls all day long, generating leads. How many leads are they generating on average for you a month?
So they are booking 3 to 5 appointments per week on the calendar of the BDM. So if we say it's like 4 on average, that would be about 17 leads a month that are placed on the calendar.
Okay. And do you think that this individual should be list building as well, and they're responsible for creating who they're going to call and calling them and getting them on the calendar, or is that something completely separate that marketing does?
So the primary responsibility for feeding that funnel for the BDR is our marketing person. If you get someone who's really good at cold calling and really good at hooking people and getting engaging conversations and getting them to agree to a follow-up call, that's a pretty high value activity. And I think that the actual like sourcing of this list and curating of the phone numbers and everything, you probably don't want them taking time away doing that when it's something that somebody else could be doing as kind of a filler activity. Again, we're figuring this out. I'm 3 months in here. We're kind of seeing what works.
Well, let's put numbers on that, Peter. I mean, if I've got a person like you're talking about, and I can just hand them over the list, I mean, how many calls a day are they making? I think that puts it in perspective for people listening. It's like, oh yeah, they should not be finding the list because they can make, like, what's the output look like?
I don't know.
Okay.
All I know is if they're hitting the metric that I set.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how many calls they're making a day. I could definitely ask my marketing guy. He would know for sure.
And the metric you set is what? Let's work back from what are you expecting from this person numerically?
I will double check our scorecard. I believe we're expecting 5 appointments booked per week.
Yeah. I think most people watching this in the property management space are like, that's pretty quality stuff. I don't know if I can use pay-per-click or something else. Obviously, you were very transparent about the value of organic and 11 years in business SEO. That's the one thing I try to talk to my newer clients about a lot is everybody says, well, what's working for you? And everybody says SEO. But everybody they're talking to has been in business for a decade. And the only marketing game that I know of that's zero sum, meaning that it's really hard to make the pie bigger, is SEO, right? Everything else, like calling people, like doing social media, other things, these are not zero sum games. Like you can find people, you can get in their heads, you can create YouTube channels. People will never stop consuming great content. But unfortunately, I'm much older than you guys, both on the call. And we had this thing growing up called the Yellow Pages. And they would only sell 3 ads at the top of the Yellow Pages. And that was it. And like once those were sold out, people would just keep their competition out of business for decades by saying, I don't care how much you raise our price, call me first. I've been doing business with you for 10 years. I will just basically shut everybody else out of the market. And unfortunately, natural SEO is a little bit of that game. Like they're not just getting money for it, but if you've got a decade of experience against your competition, you're going to do it. So I just want to bring that up, Peter, because I think that so many people are like, well, what works for you? Like SEO. And they're like, well, yeah, so sure. Call me back in 10 years and let me know if it works.
Yeah, right.
Like it's very different. But what I love is that you're still innovating and you're still trying new things, even though you already have that. So do you just want to kind of speak to the mindset of the fact that you're not just sitting in your ivory tower and like enjoying your competitive advantage of 11 years, but you're still trying new things?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that advantage I think is less durable than it used to be in the days of the Yellow Pages. I mean, the Google algorithm is constantly changing. All of the algorithms are constantly changing, and so you can't count on that sure thing in the way that you used to. The other, the bigger you get, the more leads per month you need to sustain your current size, given a consistent churn percentage. So let's pretend you're churning 15% of your units per year. Well, when you're at 100 doors, that's 15 clients you need to replace just to stay even with where you were. Well, when you're 800 doors, that starts to get kind of insane, right? So 15 doors times 8, that's 120 doors you need to add a year. That's 10 a month just to stay even. So we may get that. I know we probably do get that from SEO, but I'm not interested in staying where I am. I need to figure out how to keep growing. Now, of course, reducing churn is a great way to do that, but you can't ignore like the growth side of that equation. Just because your company's bigger doesn't mean you're automatically going to attract more and more leads every month. You got to figure out new ways to do that. The other thing that I really got clear on here is that if you think about like what you would be willing to pay to acquire a door, like in my newsletter every week, I see I list these PM companies for sale and you see the crazy amounts that people are listing. It doesn't mean they're necessarily transacting at those high numbers, but let's just pretend that the value of a door in today's market at a PM company is like $3,000. It's not that outrageous, in my opinion.
Great.
So if you could sell a door for $3,000, how much should you pay for a door? Or like, what's the max you would be willing to pay for a door probably like pretty close to that, right? If you can then turn around and flip it, like that's how the marketplace is valuing these customers. And so let's pretend you were willing to spend up to $2,000 to acquire a door to give you like a nice big margin. That's a lot of money that you can spend on outbound and other marketing and sales activities. Now, you got to be careful with the math. There's some math that works to your advantage and there's some math that works against you. If you have like close to 2 units per client on average, that really helps, right? Because you can acquire one customer and get 2 doors. The math that goes against you is all of that money is not profit. And so you have to apply like a profitability multiplier to figure out how much you could actually spend to acquire a door and still be profitable. But the long story short is, for a healthy management company, you can spend quite a bit of money to, sort of close the loop on what I was saying earlier. You can spend quite a bit of money to acquire a new customer. And I don't quite know that people realize that and have done that math.
I agree. I mean, I love what you just said. If you're going to turn around and sell it, theoretically, you could spend $2,900 per customer and just roll up, 100 of them and immediately turn around and sell it. Obviously,
Exactly.
that's a different reality than actually having to staff and keep those clients and manage that. There is a cost to being in business, but I just like the sensationalism of how you put that, because I think that like if the pendulum of sensationalism is over here, most business owners are way over here, and they're like,
right. You get people who balk at spending $120 to acquire a lead. And like, let's say you're closing a fifth of those. I mean, we're closing closer to a third, but let's just say you were only closing a fifth. Like $120 times 5, you're only paying $600 to acquire a new client. Contrast that with like the $3,000 valuation, or even say it's only worth $2,000. Still $600 to $2,000. Like, it seems like kind of a free money machine, doesn't it?
what we want. So, Jen, I want to transition and talk about Peter's newest opportunity or adventure, and that is Circle. So feel free to jump in with any questions you have, Jen, but I just want to spend a moment or two on this. So obviously, 6 years in business with you, like I said, just watching you go from I'm trying to figure it out to I'm trying to advance it, and I'm trying to pioneer, and I'm trying to help other people. So we're an affiliate with your amazing organization. Sorry, not Circle, sorry, Crane. That's always in my head because that's what I type in when I go to your awesome community that I absolutely love. And I see you've got the coveted Crane pin on. I should have worn mine as well. Jen, we should have totally got into costume for this. But Crane, right. So you operate Crane, which is this amazing young nascent organization for property managers who want to grow. So tell us about Crane and why you wanted to start that with your good friend Wolf.
Yeah, so Crane is a paid private community for property management business owners. It's designed for folks who really want to take their business to the next level. So it's not so much set up for people who are just starting out. You do have to have 100 doors minimum in order to apply. Wolf and I really saw an opportunity to bring together some of the best and brightest in the property management industry, give them a place to collaborate, communicate, learn from each other. Wolf and I, of course, share all of our best practices and really sort of open the curtain on our own businesses within the community. The nice thing about it is it's completely private, and every member agrees to a set of community guidelines saying that they're not going to share, outside the community, the things that other members speak about. And so instead of sharing on a big Facebook group things like your profit margin or your door growth or your churn, now you're doing it in a much more controlled and private way. And that leads to a much higher and deeper level of discussion that a lot of folks are seeing a lot of value from. So,
oh wait, was this like Fight Club? Is like the first rule not to talk about Crane? Should I have not brought it up?
No, you could talk about Crane, but just, the discussions that happen inside the community. That's all. Yeah. So, and we do meetups alongside the major NARPM conferences every year, and we have, our own online events for members, and we have our great Crane partners like RentScale who are supporting the community and get to tap into the network that's developed there and sort of, dip their toe in the water and see where the industry is headed.
Love it. Jen, any last questions from you?
I mean, Peter, one thing I wanted to ask you was, just maybe a wrap-up question. If you had to sum it up in a few sentences, you know so much about the industry. You are obviously a pioneer, definitely an influencer. What do you think other PMs are doing that's causing them to struggle with gaining new client traction and generating leads that they want to work with?
While you think about this, Peter, this may be my favorite question we're asking, right? I mean, we talked to, I'll just say, as you think about it, you talk to your Crane members. Jen and I are talking to, hundreds of property managers a year. They all want to do the same thing. What are the mistakes that they're making? Like, where are they struggling? I think you probably have a really insightful view on this. So I think this is my favorite question that we're asking.
Yeah, I mean, I already spoke at length on the sort of fear around spending money to acquire a customer or a lead or a door. So that definitely plays a part. I'll give a further answer beyond that, which is the first thing you need to do when I talk to someone who's struggling to grow their PM business, and I talk to a lot of people like this, first thing I do is I force them to get clear on, is this a sales problem or is this a marketing problem? Do you truly have a shortage of leads coming in, or are you or your BDM just not closing them at a good percentage rate? If you're not closing 20+% of the valid leads that come into your PM business, that's where I would start. That's easier to solve than the lead problem. So, and RentScale is a great solution to help with that. If you are closing 25-30% of the valid leads that come in, now you need to look at your marketing function. And this brings us back to the earlier discussion around who's accountable for that metric. Is it you? Is it your BDM? Like, get clarity on who's accountable for that metric, set a number, and hold that person accountable, even if that's yourself. And now you've got a really clear metric to drive to. And that's when you can start to get clarity on solutions. You have to really narrowly and tightly define the problem if you're ever going to find a great solution. So that would probably be my answer to somebody who's struggling in this area.
I love that, Peter. I think it's so important to understand your problem before you're trying to put solutions to it. And we talk a lot about attract, convert, and multiply here. That's just the language that we use. But are you struggling to attract consistent leads? Are you struggling to convert those great leads? Or are you struggling to build your referral business and take the clients you have and turn one door into three? So I think that's so spot on, and such a smart answer, Peter. Love it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Peter, expect to find yourself plastered all over Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube because we're just going to run that last clip on advertising. Jen, you hire 2 more coaches because I think Peter is going to explode with that answer alone. I mean, it really is. This is what the sober conversations we have with our clients is, we're not selling a magic pill. We're diagnosing the problem. Like you said, is it marketing? Is it sales? And we've seen how to solve that problem. The spoiler alert is it takes resources. It's either check equity or sweat equity, right? You're either spending money on marketing or you're spending money on people, and you have to solve that problem. And the number one speed break on a business, and Jen, I'm saying this for us as well, as we get together, think about 2025, is, knowing you have a problem, but not being willing to accept it. Like wishing that there was a magic pill, not wanting to, not embracing the idea that like this is going to take work to solve, but if we've identified the problem, we should spend all the resources we have at solving that bottleneck, right? I'm guessing, I'm talking about it from a sales and marketing standpoint, and that's what we asked you on, but I'm guessing you would copy and paste that, Peter, to everything in your business, right? Why am I losing clients? Why am I losing employees? Why am I having a trouble making profit at the end of the year, right? You're just going to find the bottleneck. Isn't that the killer app of business?
Yeah, and that's also my engineering background coming out to play as I'm a problem solver. I break things down and I look for solutions, I test, I iterate. And by the way, I don't mean to make it sound like I've got it all figured out. We've got a pretty bad churn problem at RL Property Management, and we haven't kicked it yet. And I've been writing about it for over a year now, and we are still battling churn. And so there's areas where I look to other people who have like single digit churn, and I just start drooling because now I'm, there's this relationship between the lower your churn is, the more you can spend to acquire a customer. And if our churn was that good, I could have 3 outbound guys. And, so I got a couple things figured out, but we're all learning together.
Okay, all right. So I was about to wrap up, Peter, but you just unlocked something that is crazy not to talk about, right? So I like to say he who can make the most from every lead can afford to spend more on leads. And actually, Jordan Moyla from Lead Simple really, fan those flames, right? He talks about it all the time. So what's your take on that? What advice are you giving to other business owners on how important it is to be able to make more money from your leads, and then to not just harvest that in the bank account, but then to turn around that immediately back into marketing and killing your competition?
Yeah, property management. So it's this recurring revenue business and it's very capital light. So when you solve a problem like churn in your business, or when you do figure out how to onboard new customers quickly, depending on how your property management services are priced, like if you have an onboarding fee or if you're collecting and charging property management fees upfront or in arrears, there can be a very effective cash conversion cycle, even a negative cash conversion cycle that can emerge from a well-run PM company, which the faster you can iterate there, the faster you can reinvest those dollars back into growth. You just have to be careful with churn, because if you expand the type of customer, like let's say you unlock a new marketing channel like cold outbound and you start to convert those customers, ideally you would track that sort of source and cohort and measure and monitor the churn rate of them specifically to make sure that they're not churning out at like double the rate of your organic leads that are coming in. So there's a lot of nuance and there's a lot of fun things you can do there. As you were talking earlier, Jeremy, about your attract, convert, multiply, it got me thinking about that last one, the multiply. I don't know that our industry has any good benchmarks around what's the number of new doors every year coming from existing owners. Like, should a healthy PM company add 2% to their door count from existing owners? Should a healthy PM company be adding 10%? Like, it would be really interesting if that data was tracked in like a scorecard the way that your BDM performance is right now, because my guess is that there's some outperformers in our industry who are probably adding like 10 to 20% from existing owners every year. We need to like identify those people and then interview them and figure out what they're doing right. My guess is I'm probably on the low end of that scale. Like if we benchmarked all your clients at RentScale, I'm probably going to be on the lower end because we don't have brokerage in house. By the time we find out an owner's selling a property, like we're the last one to know. And if you can get ahead of that, there's some vendors doing some interesting things in the space here, like Blanket and Lineage and Discover and a few others. It'd be really cool to have data there.
I wish I could say this out loud. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
And also, like, that number also, again, goes back to how much you can spend to acquire a customer. Because if you know that your average customer adds 10% per year versus 20% per year, again, that's like feeding into how much you could spend to acquire somebody, because you know the customer lifetime value has like some... Anyway.
So totally. I mean, if you're new to business and you just Google the concept of a loss leader and you realize how many businesses are not in the business that they say they're in, like you're signing up for something and then you're actually building a relationship where you're spending far more. Like Peter, this was probably before your time, but did you ever hear about the Columbia, what was like the CD thing where you could spend 1 penny and get like 7?
Oh yeah, I don't know how old you think I am. I'm 39. I
no,
remember Yellow Books. I remember, yes.
Got it.
Yes.
You remember this? Like Columbia would be like,
I do.
It was $1 million offer, right? Going back to Alex Ramosi, like talk about $1 million offer, like get 7 CDs for a penny. But then they knew the back end was, what was it, $40 a month, which back in the 90s was a lot of money. And they would keep people for years and years and years. So if you guys don't know Loss Leader, look it up. This is where marketing comes into business. I know we're all drowning in just trying to get maintenance requests handled and other things, but like this is where real business innovation comes from: product innovation, marketing innovation. So Peter, I wish I could say this out loud. Luckily it's just the three of us, but half of our sales mastery is focused on multiply. I know you're going to miss it, unfortunately, but we are seeing how our best clients are exploding their business in a very unique way. and they're selling on the back end, not just on the front end. So I like, don't tell anybody this is just between the three of us.
Yeah.
But
All right. Well, we need a scoreboard for that.
Yes, we're spending half of sales mastery on Multiply because we know that there's some awesome tools. And we think just like 6 years ago when Jordan brought me in the business, nobody was willing to do the work it took to market and acquire customers and build a list. I don't think people are willing to do the work to multiply. And I think people like you are. And so we're going to be bringing those strategies to you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Peter, I really appreciate it. It's been amazing to watch your growth. I've learned so much from you. I know we do business together. Whatever you've paid me, I think I've learned more from you. So thank you very much. Thank you, Jen, for being here. These are some of my favorite people in the industry, and I love sharing this. So I'm just going to wind up before I wrap up. What are you looking forward to in 2025? Anything on your horizon that you want to share?
Well, I'm really excited about some of these companies and vendors that are pushing the industry in new directions. So I mentioned earlier, but Lineage, Blanket, and Discover, they're not all directly competitors. There's some nuances there, but all three of them are taking our industry forward in new ways. And there's an asset management discussion that I think is very, very early days and is going to be what helps take our industry to the next level, especially when combined with things like the PM operations standards that were just released. So there's been a lot of innovation and change over the last couple of years. And I think the next few years is going to be when all those things start to coalesce and congeal into something that's going to be really, really impactful for the industry, not only for the property management businesses themselves, but also for the property owners.
Love it. We'll be talking about that at Lead Simple University. Jen and I will be on stage there. We'll be talking about it a lot at Sales Mastery. I think your breadcrumbs are right. I think you're following the right direction. We're seeing that happening a lot.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here, Peter. Peter's the CEO and owner of RL Property Management, a residential property management company in Columbus, Ohio. He's also what I believe was the 12th client of RentScale, and I really appreciate him for doing that. He's also co-founder with his good friend Wolf of Crane, which is a private PM community, which he talked about. And he is the author of one of the only 2 newsletters that I will subscribe to. I told you guys coming into the intro that I love Resi Club, and that's where I get the best data about what's actually happening in real estate. But I look to Peter for what's happening in property management. And so if you're not a subscriber to Peter Lohmann's newsletter, you're missing out. I've been promoting it for a year, right? And you're up to how many subscribers, Peter?
About 13,000.
About 13,000. Look at that. Even more than I thought you were going to say.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great. So Peter, thanks for being such a good mind in the industry and so gracious with your thoughts. A lot of people would keep that to themselves. I appreciate that. And you literally are one of my favorite entrepreneurs, and I hope to see you more often in the future.
Thanks, Jeremy. You made me feel all good. Appreciate that. It's great working with you too as well.
Appreciate that. This episode is brought to you by Strategic PM, the magazine for property management entrepreneurs and executives. If you go online to strategicpm.com today, you're going to find an entire website full of content written about your industry and by your peers. And it's completely free to sign up. Just go ahead and click on the create a free account right in the upper right-hand corner. When you click on that, not only can you create a digital account, but you can actually add your mailing address, and we will send you a free 1-year subscription of the print magazine, which will be showing up in your offices every single quarter. So if you take a look inside the magazine, what you're going to see is that we are focused on growth. We've got 5 pillars of Strategic PM: vision, strategy, culture, marketing, and experience. You're going to be seeing some great high-class content from some of the best thought leaders in the industry talking about the matters that matter the most to your business. So sign up for free today at strategicpm.com and look for the magazine in your office. There are lots of great ideas. Like I said, I am definitely inspired by Peter's ability to innovate And some of my notes that I took down were that a problem well-defined is half solved. So you got to know what problem you're solving. And sometimes the answers to the problems that you're experiencing are outside the industry, and you got to try new things. And so really appreciate Peter for sharing all of that. Reach out to him, subscribe to his newsletter, follow him on X. He's got great concepts. But I want to talk about the event calendar. I want to wrap up. I know this has been a long episode, but it's been a great episode. So you know we're working hard, and I know Lead Simple's working hard. So let's jump into the event calendar. Start right away with the first event that is on my calendar that I can't wait to get to, and that is December 3rd to 5th. It is Lead Simple University in Austin, Texas. We're really excited. Jen and I will be speaking there, and we are rolling out some multiply content as we teased in that last interview. And then if you stick around on Friday, we've got our biggest event of the year. So we've got people coming in from all over the country who want to grow their property management company, and they want to keep up with technology. They want to keep up with new strategy, and they want to absolutely dominate 2025. So our prices do go up at, I think it's 11:30 tomorrow night, which is a Friday on November 15th, because we got to put our head counts in, and anybody that signs up after that is gravy. We're pretty close to filling up. So we'll be having RentScale Sales Mastery in Austin, Texas. It's January 20th to 23rd. I'm sorry, December 6th. Sorry, reading ahead. December 6th. And you can sign up at salesmastery.live. We're going to drop in information for you. We'd love to see you there. It's our biggest event of the year, and it's going to be amazing. Looking forward to January. Once we wrap up for the holidays, we take a little time off. We're going to be back. And from January 20th to the 23rd, we're heading out to Vegas, and we're going to the PM Systems Conference in Las Vegas, Nevada. Hope to see you there. Again, Jen and I will be speaking. All of these events are places where you can come out, see us, talk to us, ask us questions. We'd love to see you there. Just looking around the quarter, even a little bit further out, starting to get further into the NARPM schedule, and NARPM events are starting next year. And we're looking at February 26th for the North Carolina State NARPM Conference. So it's the 26th and the 27th of February, and it should also be a great conference. We always love our NARPM regional conferences. We feel like they're some of the best ways to meet people like a Peter Lohmann and people that are doing things that you want to be doing. So those are the events. If you're interested in meeting with us or meeting some peers or other viewers of the channel, that's where you want to be. So we're excited to see you there. So thanks for watching. I know this one went super long, but I hope you guys saw all the value out of it. And that's it for us this week. Thanks for joining in and learning about the latest tips and trends from the top residential property managers in North America. Please be sure that you join us every time. We do this every other week, so you don't miss your competitive advantage. Check out all the latest going on in property management and get details and show notes about today's show and our guest. Just head over to strategicpm.com. Strategicpm.com. Sign up, subscribe to our social channels, follow and share, and we'll see you next time with our latest update on property management. And that is what's happening this week in PM.